CBSE Board, Class 11, History, Chapter 4, Part 12, Audio by Renee Matthew. There was a lot of tradition which influenced the European settlers, and one was where the natives always exchanged alliances and friendship. They always had a habit of exchanging gifts. They also got many gifts from the European settlers, and goods were obtained not by buying them but as gifts. Whatever they got was obtained as gifts. So that was one of the cultural tradition of these natives. Lot of languages were spoken across the belt of North America. Though they were not written down, though the people were not literate, many languages were spoken. It was a kind of heterogeneous mixture of languages, and they believed that time moved in cycles. They were not aware of the seasons, and each tribe had accounts about their origins. Everything moved in cycles. They had a lot of account. They kept a lot of account of their origin, also about their earlier history, and that got passed from one generation to another. So with these records only the archaeologists are able to understand about what happened in the history of the North Americans. And these people were skilled people, especially in craft and in beautiful textiles. They could read the land just like they could read textbooks now. So they were able to understand the intensity of the climates, the different landscape, and they were as literate, like they were not skilled in reading and writing, but they were able to read the land and read the climate and everything. That is when the Europeans come. That is when they started interfering, which caused a lot of disruption. In the 17th century, the European traders reached the north coast of North America. And after a 2-month voyage, we saw how the expeditions were funded. We saw how the people took off from the Atlantic Ocean and how they were very curious. They had a lot of confusion also. After 1 month, many people in the crew told we need to go back because they were not able to find access to the land. They were not able to catch sight of any land. But after a 2-month voyage, we can see that the native people welcomed the Europeans in a very friendly manner. They were very welcoming. So that is something which caused a big relief to the settlers, and they were also able to get access to the resources which was available there, especially mining. So the Spanish people were attracted to South America because of the abundance of gold in the country. Now these adventurers, these Europeans who came to trade in North America, was attracted by fish and fur, and they got the willing help of the natives, and they were expert at hunting. So only with the help of the natives they were able to carry on with the expeditions of hunting, or even go to gather the fish and fur. They will check the quality of all these things, and they will establish trade link with these people. That is how they operated. So further south, when you go to the southern parts of this North America along the Mississippi River, the French found that the natives were very good in gathering handicrafts, and these handicrafts had a North American touch. It was very unique. It is something which was not found in the other empires or other places, especially to a particular tribe. The food items that they made, the handicrafts that they produced, everything was not available in other regions. It was very distinctive and unique to a particular tribe. It could not be found in other places. In exchange for local products, the Europeans gave the natives blankets. They started giving blankets and iron vessels, and you should know that blankets and iron vessels are something which is very new to the Europeans. They used it sometimes in place of their clay pots, and also something which was unfamiliar to these people were the guns. It was a useful supplement for bows and arrows to kill animals, and also alcohol. The blankets, iron vessels, guns, bows and arrows were supplemented by the guns, and of course alcohol, which fascinated them. The last item was something which was very unfamiliar to the natives, was of course the trade, the terms of trade, the technology and the strategy that they used for having trade links. That suited the Europeans because it enabled them to dictate terms of trade. And Europeans, what did they get in return? They got addicted to the tobacco, which was founded only with the natives. Okay, so that is something which fascinated them. Now regarding the mutual perceptions. Perceptions from the European point of view, they always defined civilized. How did they call a group of people civilized? When they were literate, when they had an organized religion, when they were urban in nature. These three factors, only through these three factors they called a group of people civilized. So in the eyes of the Europeans, the natives of America were not civilized. They appeared uncivilized. So according to Rousseau, he was a French philosopher, he said that people were to be admired when they stayed savage. When they were very close to nature, they could be admired. And that is how Rousseau said that these people were actually civilized, when they got very close to nature. Rousseau told that as you get closer to nature, the savage nature of man always brings in the humanity in people. And that was the propounded theory of Rousseau. And that is what is making people humane, more humane. So he was against the idea of civilization. But we can see that the famous English poet William Wordsworth had a different opinion. He said that as people grew in coherence, as people got associated with nature, when they lived amid wilds, fancy had small liberty to graze. It is like there are a lot of possibilities where people will not have the power to imagine and also the power to emotion. So limited power will be there when people live in close unison with nature, where they will lose track of imagination and emotion. So we can say that they had different perspectives when you take a look at Rousseau and Wordsworth. But definitely you can agree on one point, where the natives were badly exploited. And to the natives, when they exchanged goods with the Europeans, they were very happy to get returned gifts, and they always gave everything as gifts, that too in terms of friendship. Now for the Europeans it was not like that. They always dreamed of becoming rich, and we also saw that they were profit-centered. The fish and furs were commodities for them. They wanted to establish trade relationship with these natives, and they wanted to always use it as a commodity. They wanted to have profit and money, which they would sell for a profit in Europe. So that was their idea, and this was unknown to the natives. The prices of the goods were sold at a varied speed, or it was sold at a varied style from year to year. The prices of the goods, it depended on the supply. Of course, dependent on the supply, only they fix the price of good. The natives could not understand the meaning of all these things. Fixing a price, even supplying it, all these things they were not able to comprehend. They had no sense of the market. They of course learned it from the Europeans, but they were not aware of what was happening in Europe. When they took the fish and fur from here, what happened and how much of profit the Europeans got was not really. They were ignorant of all these things. They were really puzzled by the fact that the European traders sometimes gave them a lot of things. Sometimes they gave them a lot of things which was more in number. They were gifted with abundant resources in exchange for their goods, and sometimes very little. They did not have a record of how it was done, how they gave them more, how they gave them little. All these things were ignorant to these people. They were also saddened by the grief or greed of the Europeans. Sometimes they understood the greed of the Europeans, and they were really affected by the greed of the Europeans also. Sometimes the Europeans were really impatient to get the furs, and they started slaughtering hundreds of beavers, and the natives got very uneasy, because when they were running short of materials, how will they explain to the merchants or to the people who were waiting in Europe? They always had a kind of pact, a kind of agreement with the people in Europe, right? It's like they have to gather as much as possible from here, from the continent of North America, and then they had to sell it in Europe. So when they were not able to gather much fur, they became very impatient. They started slaughtering many beavers at once, and the natives got very uneasy. because they always felt that the animals also had a soul, and the animals will take much revenge on the natives for their destruction, and they always lived close with nature. They also did not like to hurt the animals. And following the first Europeans were definitely traders, and they came to settle in America. They started settling in America. From the 17th century, there were a lot of Europeans who were persecuted because they were of a different sect of Christianity, especially Protestants who lived in predominantly Catholic countries, or Catholics in countries where Protestantism was the official religion. So many Europeans were persecuted because they belonged to a different idea. They belonged to a different sector of the Christianity. Many of them started leaving Europe. In Europe, this is a condition in Europe, okay? This is what happened in Europe, where they started leaving Europe. They went to America to begin a new life. So many Europeans who were not happy with the political situation, the political climate in Europe, started traveling to America. They started settling there to begin a new life. So as long as there was vacant land, it was not a problem, because many people were not to be found in America. The population was very controlled. It was very less also. So as more people started migrating from Europe, and by this time you should understand one thing, the settlers who came here also, they are sending messages to Europe saying that there's a land like this which is rich in resources. So they were also fascinated. So as long as vacant land was available in America, it was not a problem for them to come and settle there. But as more and more Europeans started moving inland, especially near native villages where the natives lived, they started using their iron tools to cut down forest to lay out farms. So now, to accommodate more people without the permission of the natives, the Europeans started cutting down forest, and that became a very big problem. The natives and Europeans saw different things when they looked at the forest. They had different perceptions which collided, which of course led to a lot of upheavals and struggles. The natives identified tracks invisible to the Europeans. They were able to identify a lot of things which was not visible to the Europeans, which was not at all comprehensible by the Europeans. The Europeans imagined the forest cut down and replaced by cornfields. So always, what was the intention of the Europeans? To only cut down cornfields, to imagine the forest cleared, to establish more and more farms there. But natives had a different perspective. They wanted to always preserve the land as it is. Now we need to look at Jefferson's dream, which is very important. He wanted a country which was populated by Europeans with small farms. That was the dream of Jefferson. The natives who grew crops for their own needs, not for sale and profit, they thought it wrong to own the land. They could not understand this. Jefferson always wanted the land to be filled with lot of farms. But the natives were very happy with their life. They just wanted to grow crops. They wanted to just be happy with whatever they got. They did not believe in the idea of surplus. They did not believe in gathering things and even having a trade. They did not understand the meanings of sale and profit. And of course, the settlers were not able to convince them with the idea of owning the land. Their question was, why should we own the land? It is ours only. In Jefferson's view, this made them uncivilized because they were not able to understand the meaning of owning the land. But Europeans wanted to always own the land. The countries that are known as Canada and United States of America came into existence. It came into existence only by the end of 18th century, and they occupied only a fraction of the land they now cover. So the countries which came to be known as United States of America, that we have now, Canada, everything came up very later, by the end of the 18th century, with very less population. Over the next 100 years, they started extending their control over more territory. Okay, they started expanding it, and that is how we have the maximum population which reached the present size. Large areas were acquired by the USA by purchase. They started purchasing. They started acquiring a lot of land. They bought land in the south from France, Louisiana Purchase. So that is the Louisiana Purchase, where they got land from France and also from Russia. Alaska was obtained from Russia. They got Louisiana from French people, and also by war. It's not that they were readily acceptable, where they gave their land just like that. Much of southern USA was won from Mexico. So this is how they extended their empire. This is how they got the land from French, from the Russians, and also much of the southern part of USA was actually won from Mexico. So it did not occur to anyone that the consent of natives was really important, that they should actually ask the permission of the natives. They were just disregarded. They were not even bothered about asking permission. They were not bothered about pleasing the natives, or even asking them, or even updating them with what was happening in this particular place. And that is something which caused a lot of displeasure and discord among the natives.